Yeah, did you want to touch base on anything before the meeting, Pittsburgh wise?
No, I don't.
We are recording, just to let you all know.
Sure.
Would you like to convene the meeting, Chair Sarmiento?
Right. Yeah, okay, I'll do that. All right, we'll now call the CB PAC meeting to order. And by my clock here, 11:03 a.m. First, please give your attention to the short video. Jackie, Colin.
Due to COVID-19, this meeting will be conducted as a Zoom meeting pursuant to the provisions of Assembly Bill 361, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act. This meeting is being live streamed on the CCTA website. The chair will call upon members, staff, and other speakers by name. Please speak clearly and state your name before giving comments or remarks. Persons participating via Zoom with their cameras enabled are reminded that their activities are visible to viewers. Members participating by Zoom wishing to speak should physically raise their hand and unmute their mic when called upon. Members should mute their mics when done speaking. Citizens participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the Raise Hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone, and the chair or staff will call upon them at the appropriate time. Citizens will have 3 minutes to speak. After 3 minutes, staff will lower their hand and mute their mic. Participants via phone will be called upon by the last 4 digits of their phone number. It is requested that public speakers state their names and organization, but providing such information is voluntary. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice for public comment guidelines are printed on the meeting agenda. If authors of the written correspondence would like to speak, they should raise their hand and the chair will call upon them at the appropriate time. All written correspondence received after that and during the meeting will be entered into the record. A roll call vote will be taken for all action items. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
My apologies, I realized I was muted the whole time. So thank you for the video, Jackie. Can you now conduct the roll call, please?
Yes, Member Bana. Member Boardman.
Present.
Member Karimi.
Present.
Member Keeshan. Member Olson.
Present.
Member Pinkham. I think you're muted, Member Pinkham.
So sorry, I'm here.
Thank you. Member Riley.
Present.
Member Riker. Member Simmons. Member Weeks.
Present.
Vice Chair Dugan.
Present.
Chair Sarmiento.
Here.
Thank you. We have all members present except for members Bana, Keeshan, Riker, Simmons. And we do have a quorum, so we are okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
the next item 2 is public comment. Jackie, have we received any public comment?
We have not received any written public comment.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone in this meeting here who wishes to speak during public comment on an item not on the agenda? If so, please raise your hand. All right, I don't see any hands raised, so we'll move on to item 3, which is the consent calendar, which includes the summary of actions from the July 25th, 2022 meeting. Are there any changes or comments, et cetera, from the committee? All right, any members of the public like to speak on this item? Please raise your hand. All right, seeing no hands raised, I'll need a motion and a second for this item.
This is Member Riley. I'll move.
All right, have a first by committee member Riley. Do I have a second?
This member Karimi, I'll second.
All right, second by committee member Karimi. All right, Jackie, can you conduct a roll call vote, please?
Member Vana? Member Boardman?
Yes.
Member Karimi?
Yeah.
Member Keeshan? Member Olson?
Yes.
Member Pinkham?
Yes.
Member Riley?
Yes.
Member Riker? Member Simmons? Member Weeks?
Yes.
Vice Chair Dugan?
Yes.
Chair Sarmiento?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously with members Bana, Keeshan, Riker, and Simmons absent.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move to regular agenda items. First item is item 4, which is an action item seeking approval to request that the OBAG 3 project nomination list be approved by the authority board. This item will be presented by Colin Clark from CCTA.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair. Let's see. I'm gonna share screen in just a minute for this item. Thanks for your patience. Okay, so for the One Bay Area Grant Cycle 3, the proposed project nomination list, this is an action item, I think, Jackie, right? And this is the list, attachment A, that shows the list of applications that were received and then scored by the 6-person review panel, which included 2 representatives from the Technical Coordinating Committee, TCC, and 4 representatives from the CBPAC. And in terms of the overall OBAG 3 program, as it was presented in the staff report, it was presented as, if you remember, 50-50 in terms of the Countywide Smart Signals project and the Active Transportation and Safety program, which then would include also the programmatic piece for the Countywide Safe Routes to School. And this went to the TCC last week on August 18th on Thursday, and some feedback was received in regards to that, and then it'll go to Planning Committee September 7th and board after that. You can see the top 11 projects were did make the the proposed nomination list, with the exception of item number 10 that you see, number 9 from the county. So the review panel had discussed this, and because of the cost of the county's San Pablo Avenue project, Safe Routes, the SS4A, Safe Streets and Roads for All, USDOT grant program was chosen as a potential next step to get that project funded. And so from an OBAG 3 perspective, items 1 through 9 would be proposed for nomination to the board and to MZC for consideration. In addition to item number 11 would be partially funded if MTC were to select it. So wanting to get input and feedback from this group today. Thanks.
All right, thank you for that update, Colin. Do any members of the committee have any comments? Just raise your hand, either virtually or your actual hand. All right, Corey.
Is this comments for the entire item, or is this comments on just this section?
Colin, are you accepting, I guess, if you respond to Corey's question?
Is this the end of the OBAG presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have a committee member, Riley? Do you have a follow-up question, or is that?
I do, but I wanted to see if anyone else had comments first.
Okay.
I guess I could go ahead. So could you just restate what you said? So number 9 is not getting funded. Is that correct with OBAG?
Right. The proposed nomination list does not include item number 9.
Okay. So in the larger staff report, there is a section, on page 6 that talks about geographical equity. Was geographical equity a deciding factor in scoring of the projects, or is that just kind of an analysis after the fact?
That was analysis after the fact for information only.
Okay. And does geographical equity, is that a factor in deciding the non-infrastructure funding?
It's not a factor from MTC's perspective, if that's the question.
Okay. I sometimes my radar gets raised, I think, when I see geographical equity talked about. I think that a lot of the purposes of these funds is that they go to the places that they be needed the most. And I think the word geographical equity sometimes gets used in venues such as these to mean geographical equity, where making sure that each of the each of the subsections of the county are getting equal amounts or proportional amounts. And I don't feel that that's the true nature of the word equity. To me, equity means the places, the people that need it the most, get the most resources, get the lion's share of the resources. If that wasn't a deciding factor in the application, then and it was just a sort of post facto analysis, then that's okay with me. And then just conferring with some of my coworkers beforehand, I think that there was some discussion at the TCC about how, I guess, the signal prioritization is framed. And I'm sorry, I'm not a complete expert on it, but it seems like that was seen as the priority on this when other aspects of the project have been sort of more vetted. And so I think it was just more about how that gets framed in this. I can follow up with an email about that. So I don't need to keep going on about that. That's it. I think those are my comments.
All right, thank you, Committee Member Riley. Next, I see Committee Member Pinkham.
Yes, project number 9 is the San Pablo Avenue Complete Streets project, part of the San Pablo Avenue Multimodal Corridor. And I'm a little unclear which gap we're closing on the Bay Trail.
Committee Member Pinkham, I think I can answer that, and then I have also County Public Works staff here if they need to jump in. So this project is not connected to that San Pablo Avenue Multimodal Corridor. That I think is further down. I think it's the one you're referring to is the one from that extends into Alameda County, correct?
It
Like,
goes from Alameda to Contra Costa. It goes from Oakland, hopefully, to San Pablo.
Okay, so yeah, this project is not that. This Bay Trail gap closures from Rodeo to Crockett.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Okay, fine. Sounds good, though. Sounds like a good project.
All right, Committee Member Riley.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone who spent the time reviewing applications. You know, I've done it before. It is difficult and onerous, and often sometimes feels like a thankless job. So thanks everyone who helped out reviewing applications.
Testing.
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry about that.
I was about to move to make a motion, but if you wanted to speak, I will hold off on making that motion.
Yeah, well, thanks, Committee Member Riley. I'll get back to you about that. We'll just see take some more committee member comments, and then public comments.
All right, public, sure. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Any other committee member comments? I do see Mr. Owen's hands up, but I think I'll wait till public comment. So I just want one. All right. One last call for committee member comments. All right. See none, I'll go to public comment. So Eric.
Hello, my name is Eric Owens. I am with Bike Concord. I'm very excited to see there are 2 projects going to Concord. For the Galendo Street, we just had a meeting with Concord over projects, and there's still a very large disconnect between the county and the city traffic engineers. So, or even for the Galendo Street project, one of the things is they are adding a 2-way cycle track into there, but they are, as it heads south, they're routing the bike traffic through the high school onto a street, which gets closed during the middle of the day during the high school. And the other route, they have no bike route or bicycle plan in there. What is the actual sort of mechanisms to make sure that the project you are funding is actually held to the same design standards as the CCTA and not necessarily to the city?
Eric, I just want to clarify, is that a question for Concord's County or CCTA staff? I just want to make sure I have
I'm new to this, so I don't necessarily know. Is there, I mean, it's the county's funding this, but is there some mechanism to make sure that these projects have bike lanes, protected bike lanes, or those things? I still don't fully understand how that works.
Okay, and I just want to clarify, because you're referring to the county, but we're not, the county, the unincorporated county is not funding this, it's CCTA.
Excuse me, that was the CCT. When I said county, I meant you. I consider you the county, but I guess I'm using the wrong language there. My apologies.
Okay, no worries, and that's why I wanted to clarify first. So maybe I'll direct that question to Colin then, if it's CCTA related question.
I think it's something you might bring up during agenda item D2. The city will be presenting the complete streets checklist, and that's one of the ways that can address, some of that scoping conversation. And from an OBAG 3 standpoint, I don't think CCTA has design guidelines required other than those that are, encouraged from the countywide bike and ped plan on CCTA's website.
I'm sorry, is that going to be, you said the agenda item D2, is that part of this meeting or is that part of a different meeting?
Yes, this meeting today.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
And yeah, and I guess the other thing to look at too is if you go to the countywide planning webpage, there's a Vision Zero webpage, and there's a toolbox there that shows different treatments. So that's the other kind of design guidelines document that CCTA has in regards to these type of projects.
Great, thank you.
I see committee member Dugan's hand up. Sean.
Yeah, hi, Vice Chair Dugan here. I think maybe Colin, you might have just answered a sort of a follow-up question to this, and that is the link that you just directed this committee to. To me, the general question I thought I heard was what are the procedures in place that ensure that what's being applied for is actually being implemented? And I think those are very set. But can you just confirm that, please, Colin, that there's a process that is a review that's gone through and submittals and things to make sure that these projects are implemented as planned. And then also, if a project falls through for some reason, or isn't going to be implemented after it's been awarded this, what's that process as well?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I guess there's a resolution, a funding resolution that ultimately will be, taken and reviewed by the planning committee and the authority board, which has a one-page attachment, typically with the kind of more detailed scope of work, and that is what CCTA can use to make sure that that scope is met by the local agency project sponsor, and that's typically Measure J funded projects. This is OBAG 3, so it might be a little bit different in terms of there's not necessarily an interagency peer review process in terms of the 65% design stage, which is typical of Measure J funded projects. But still there would be a funding resolution with a scope of work that would include that.
I see Eric's hand up again. Eric?
No, sorry, I just need to put that down. Thank you.
Okay. Committee member Weeks.
Hi, just a quick clarification request. So in the agenda packet, we have this complete list of active transportation and safety applications ranked by score. There's also a final Contra Costa County nomination list that includes 2 additional projects. I just assumed that when Colin said that the presentation was over, that maybe there should be an acknowledgement of that list. Is there a clarification maybe, Colin, you could do why there's this final list that's adds a couple additional projects on there, just for the record?
Sure, thank you. So the authority board in May of this year approved the program framework for OBAG 3, which included the Countywide Smart Signals project, and the Safe Routes to School programmatic project that CCTA ended up being the sponsor for countywide for each of the agencies to benefit from. And then the third part of the OBAG 3 program in terms of what's being proposed to MTC for consideration is the active transportation and safety infrastructure projects.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
All right, any other questions or comments on this item? All right, seeing no other hands up, I do recall committee member Riley moving this item for approval. I'm assuming committee member Riley still want to move forward with it, correct?
Yes, sure. Sorry for jumping the gun. If we're ready for a movement, I will move that we accept.
All right, have a motion by committee member Riley. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, a second by committee member Weeks. Jackie, please conduct a roll call.
Member Bana? Member Bana? Sorry, I see you.
Yes,
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I just joined. My
No
apology.
worries. No worries, thank you. Member Boardman?
Yes.
Member Karimi?
Abstain.
Member Keeshan? Member Olson?
Yes.
Member Pinkham?
Yes.
Member Riley?
Yes.
Member Riker? Member Simmons? Member Weeks?
Yes.
Vice Chair Dugan?
Yes.
Chair Sarmiento?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimously with member Karimi abstaining and members Riker and Simmons absent.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to item B, which is discuss approval of the updated list of local projects for the countywide bicycle and pedestrian plan, in which staff is requesting CBPAC members to review and provide comment. This item will also be presented by Colin Clark from CCTA.
Thank you, Chair. So the countywide bike and ped plan project list was adopted in July of 2018, and this is the first formal update of that list of local projects in Appendix D. And so over the last many months, we've been coordinating with each of the different jurisdictions to get input on which projects have been completed versus which projects should be added for funding consideration from various funding sources and that type of thing. So this project list is the draft going through the committee process. So if you have any sort of projects that you don't see on the list yet, please do email me and get in touch so that we can discuss any sort of other projects that aren't yet on the list. And I'll leave it there.
All right, thank you, Colin. Do any committee members have any comments on this item? Committee member Olson?
Yeah, hi. Bruce Olson, resident of Pittsburgh and regular transportation bicyclist. I'd like to discuss the CCTA project code number 120, which is the East Bay Mud Trail between Los Medanos College and Brentwood. It's being listed as complete. I'd like to say I just rode my bicycle on part of that trail yesterday. It is not complete. The trail currently ends at roughly the corner of Stapleton Road and Buchanan Road. There's a 2-block section that's missing, and it does not go all the way. I'm thinking, this is my assumption now, that East Bay Mud is happy that the bridge over Highway 4 for the McCullum Aqueduct Trail Bridge, which follows the East Bay Mud right-of-way, is being built now. And they're throwing a sigh of relief and saying, yay, everything's done, we're out of here. Well, that's not the truth. I would like to see this item not listed as complete until it is in fact complete.
Chair, if I may just clarify something, I think what's being discussed here, I think the name of the project includes the verb complete. I had nothing to do with the naming of the project, but it says EB Mud Trail complete, and that's the name of the project. So I don't think that it's being listed as completed. It's listed as a current project on the list, but I do appreciate that being pointed out. So the first section of the project list is the active projects that are proposed. The second part of the list is which projects are proposed for removal. And then the third part of the list is proposed for addition to the list.
All right, thank you for that clarification, Colin. Any other questions or comments on this item? Committee Member Olson?
Yeah, it's me again. I didn't really read this entire list. It's a big one, but I did glance at the city of Pittsburgh's projects. Number 1460, the city of Pittsburgh wants to include a Class 3 designation on Century Boulevard. And you'll recall that Class 3 is the painting of a decal of a bicycle every once in a while on the street. The traffic engineer is indicating to the motorist that this is where we, the traffic engineer, want to see the bicyclist riding. So you, the motorist, need to pay attention and not run over the bicyclist. Bicyclists view these decals a little differently. The bicyclists with whom I speak say, oh, I thought that was where a bicyclist got hit by a car. I never ride in the street over those decals. Motorists with whom I have spoken have said similar things. I would like to request that this organization not recommend any Class 3 designations, and I'm not yelling at the city of Pittsburgh. This just happens to be the one I observed.
All right. Thank you for the comment, Committee Member Olson. All right, Committee Member Weeks.
Hey, I just had a clarification request. I noticed you are removing a project that should be removed from the city of San Ramon. I think it was project 279. And then it's being, the way I think about it in my mind is it's being replaced by project 280. But 280 is on a funny part of the spreadsheet under just project general information at the very bottom. And I just want to make sure that for sure that's still part of the list. Do you see that on there, Colin?
Yeah, I'm searching. Thank you for bringing that up. So 280 project general information. Yes, that's on the project list, and it's intended to be added and included on the list from the city's perspective, right?
Yes, I just want to make sure it was.
Yep.
Because it's kind of dangling there at the end. Okay, thank you for the clarification. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Any other committee member comments? All right, seeing no hands up, I'll go to public comment. Do any members of the public have any comments on this item? All right, seeing no hands up. Actually, I see the agenda language that says approval. I just want to confirm, Jackie, do we need
It's just review and comment by the members. There will not be a motion taken on this item or any of the remaining items.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying. So we'll move on to item C, which is to discuss the Contra Costa Countywide Transportation Safety Policy and Implementation Guide. Staff is requesting CBPAC members to review and provide comment on the document. This item will be presented again by Colin Clark from CCTA.
Thank you, Chair. Pulling up this document that's attached in your staff report as a proposed policy resolution. And basically the background here is that US DOT's Safe Streets and Roads for All grant program that was announced end of May of this year is a new program for the next 5 years, $1 billion per year nationally. State of California is limited to 15% of the total funds, which in this case will be likely around $150 million. And one of the requirements of being eligible to be a lead applicant for an implementation grant is to have a comprehensive safety action plan. And so CCTA has its countywide bike and ped plan, and CCTA has the countywide transportation safety policy and implementation guide. And so between the two of those documents and some of the clarifications being made in the proposed resolution, will end up being compliant with the comprehensive safety action plan, so that CCTA will be eligible to be a lead applicant for an implementation grant. One of the things in this proposed resolution is a timeline by which Vision Zero will be achieved in terms of eliminating fatalities and severe injuries. And so when this was presented to the TCC, the Technical Coordinating Committee, last week, the input was requested and is requested today as well from local agencies in terms of what sort of timelines are being proposed at the local level, in terms of the local road safety plan and other Vision Zero efforts at the local level, and how that fits into the countywide goal. So this is the proposed resolution. If this advisory committee has proposed revisions, suggestions for addition, please do let us know. Thanks.
All right, thank you for that update, Colin. Do I have any comments, questions from committee members? All right, committee member Bana.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And we've been exchanging email about it. I really appreciate your guys bringing in the projects, discussing them piece by piece. I would like to convey some of that to my community. It'd be nice to know what has been planned, even though in different phases, not part of the same project, for our area, what's being proposed. So we learn about it. If there is an opportunity to provide feedback and suggestions, we do it. We have a stroll in mid-September. It'd be nice actually to receive a map and have people know that, this is coming to our area even in 2 years, in 3 years, in 5 years. Is that such a possibility, please? Thank you.
Committee Member Bond, I just want to clarify, are you referring to this to the documents in item C, or is this a specific project?
That's my whole point. Instead of going to a specific project, and I understand, is there a map of all different projects for this area?
Okay, and when you're referring to this area, are you referring, if I recall correctly, is it the El Sobrante area?
El Sobrante, Richmond.
Okay. Colin, is there a map of?
I'll be happy to prepare the map if you give me all different projects. You know, I don't expect you guys to do the work. We'll be happy to do the work ourselves if you provide those bits and pieces of information. I think the community has a right to know, but all these projects with all those details, you know, appreciate all the diligent work, but we need an overview to provide to the community, and that'd be awesome if you could help me do that.
Yes, so there is a map, and that's something we can share via email in the coming days.
Thank you so much, Colin. I would really appreciate it. The community would be very excited actually to know about it, and I'm very thankful and grateful. Again, I don't mean to expose extra work to you. I'll be happy, you know, to take care of putting them together, but I very much appreciate the information. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Committee Member Bana. Next, Committee Member Boardman.
Thanks. The year that you're listing for the goal, in order to achieve that, the CSAP requirement, the comprehensive action plan requirement I'm seeing is 2030. Is that something that was, I assume that's something that was discussed with the TCC, and could you provide some details on what their feedback was on that date and how achievable that is?
Thank you, Member Boardman. I'm happy to respond to that. Can you tell me where you're seeing 2030? Because I was under the impression that 2034 was in the draft.
Oh, I'm looking at the draft that was posted, the draft resolution that was posted on the website. So maybe this is an older document, but it says 2030. But if it's 2034, I think that's fine. So it's on page 2 and it's underlined.
Sounds good. Thank you. So yes, this was discussed at TCC briefly. City of Concord had mentioned, I believe, either tonight or tomorrow night, they're going to be adopting a local road safety plan, which may be a comprehensive safety action plan that may include a timeline that fits within this and is consistent with this. But I don't think any members of the TCC had suggested a different date in terms of being later than proposed. But there was definitely at least one member that brought up the idea of, you know, in order to be competitive at the national level, that maybe the committees might want to consider an earlier date. So that's, you know, something that the local agencies can, you know, provide input on and coordinate with CCTA staff so that we can, you know, shape that end goal date.
Could you give a little more information about that? Why would having a sooner date make us more competitive?
I think one member's interpretation of, you know, competing on the national level, in terms of when you look at the worksheet that's attached, so it's attachment C for the comprehensive safety action plan, there's an item in that checklist to be a comprehensive safety action plan that addresses time period, time ranges, and having an eventual goal of Vision Zero. But I guess the perception of one member was that there might be a benefit, but I don't think there's necessarily a a policy in the program from USDOT that explicitly suggests that a jurisdiction that proposes an earlier date is going to be more competitive.
Committee member Weeks.
Hi, I just wanted to check something. I'm on page 2 of 3 of the resolution. And I was just wondering, it says the second section where it says the key objectives indicated in the CBPP are as follows. And I just wanted to see if, I haven't confirmed this, but I think it would be useful as kind of a regional cyclist. And since we're representing a region, that we might want to look at some form of acknowledgement that some kind of prioritization of filling gaps in regional routes or long distance routes might be worth putting here. There's a lot of places where one municipality ends and another begins, or there's, as you know, as a county, Robert, that there's places that go into the county. And I think that those are the hardest projects to get teams together to fund. And oftentimes they're the most difficult to work on. So I don't know if it goes against the CBPP to list that as one of the key objectives or not. I haven't been here long enough to confirm that, but I think it would be useful to have some acknowledgement in there of the utility of closing those gaps in longer distance travel. Because if really the idea here is you're going to be replacing cars, we want to have long distance trips be much more viable by bicycle. So it's my 2 cents. If there's something that we could do to add that to the resolution, I would be very happy to see that.
And so through the chair, thank you for that. The Countywide Bike and Ped Plan adopted in July of 2018 does address gap closures as one of the top priorities. And if this committee wants to, suggest some added language to address those priorities that include gap closures, that's something that we can add into this proposed resolution before it gets to planning committee and board.
Yeah, thank you, Colin. And is there a way to, I know another piece of that is the long distance trip concept too. I mean, you could do gap closures inside of a town, which is very viable, but the idea of the longer distance trips. But I'm relatively new here, so maybe Robert, how if we wanted as a group to have, in this section, the key objectives that indicated in the CBPP are as follows, and have a fourth one after the complete streets ones that says something like prioritize filling gaps in long distance routes, something like that. I mean, is that something that we could do as a group and request that Colin look at adding?
And actually, committee member Weeks, that's probably a question that I referred to Colin, and I'm curious.
Right.
That's okay. I'm curious, Colin, because I do see for this item, it's review this document and provide comments. Is this something? How would you like to receive comments from committee members? Is it just during this current forum right here, or can we submit comments later on? And do we have any subsequent time to or another meeting to comment further or approve a document? I guess if you could clarify on that.
So yeah, I mean, today is the best opportunity, but via email after today is certainly okay. And then we'll be putting together the packet and finalizing this week. for the planning committee, which would be September 7th before it goes to the full board. And we do need to act on this for the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant opportunity sooner rather than later. But if there's additional revisions, this week in the coming days would be the best time to propose those.
All right, thank you for that clarification, Colin. Committee member Olson.
Yeah, I'm a long distance cycle commuter rider and would like to second Mr. Weeks' concern with connecting pieces that make it easier for long distance riders. I regularly ride my bicycle between Pittsburgh and Walnut Creek, and there are several major difficulties, shortages on the route that I have figured out to be the best route, safest route. And I just want to agree with Mr. Weeks and urge this committee to move in the direction that he suggested. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Committee Member Olson. Committee Member Boardman.
Thanks. A couple things. So I realize now that 2030 was related to the Vision Zero goal for MTC's policy. So just a clarification, is it okay that our, the CCTA end date is 2034 as opposed to 2030 by MTC? And what could be the repercussions from that, or if there are any? And then I think that's it for right now.
Sure. So I don't think there are any repercussions that I know about in terms of policy from MTC, but I believe MTC's resolution from July, or maybe it was June of 2020, it does set a goal of moving toward Vision Zero by 2030. And I think it's worded as such. And so 2034 was after consulting with CCTA's consultants in terms of countywide, all of the jurisdictions, 19 cities and towns, unincorporated county, Park District, Bart and others, but open to input.
All right, any other committee comments or questions? If so, please raise your hand. All right, seeing none, any members of the public have any questions or comments on this item? All right, seeing none. And just to confirm again, Jackie or Colin, right, this item doesn't need it doesn't require any action. So, but as Colin mentioned earlier, if you have any comments on the document, feel free to reach out to email Colin sooner rather than later. All right, the next item is item D, which is a review of the complete streets checklist projects, which will be presented by project sponsors, which we have a number of them on this call here. Just a reminder for presenters that each project is allowed 3 to 6 minutes for presentation, comments, and questions. So just be aware of that time. So I'm going to move to the first project, which will be presented by the City of Pittsburgh for the Delta De Anza Multimodal Trail Safety Project Improvements Project. Sorry about that. Turn it over to, I think it's Nat on the call here. I'll turn it over to you to present.
Okay. Thank you. Let me pull up the presentation real quick. So thank you for the opportunity, fellow CB PAC members and CCTA. Today I'm going to be discussing about Delta De Anza Multimodal Trail Safety Improvements Project. So this is a coordination project / collaboration between the city of Pittsburgh, Contra Costa County, city of Antioch, East Bay Regional Parks, and also East Bay Mud. So currently right now, the Delta Dancer Trail runs in the east-west corridor. It runs through Bay Point, Pittsburgh, and Antioch. It's about a 16.3 mile trail. Currently out there right now, there's basically just a nice paved path, and that's it. So this project itself, for the funding, it's going to be design and construction to improve intersections. There's a total of 35 intersections for this trail, and then also improve areas on the trail itself for peds and bicyclists. Per the Plan Bay Area 2050 strategy, one of the main focuses on that is working on trails. So for 35 intersections that we do have that run through all 3 jurisdictions, the plan is to kind of maybe install some green bike lanes, bulb outs at crosswalks, rectangular flashing beacons, wayfinding signage, ADA ramp improvements, and also lighting. This is probably a big bulk of the project, which is to improve all those intersections to help community members, bicyclists, pedestrians to connect to the trail at different intersections. In addition to the trail, there's going to be a lot of improvements, bike repair stations, solar lighting, shade structures, and a lot of these kind of address the whole safety aspect, plus also, you know, green climate change and everything. Similar to certain trails that we have throughout the state, some blue light emergency stations, additional wayfinding signage to show people where to stop by key destinations, to also where the trail connects, improve some of the fencing along the Delta Dancer Trail as well. It's going to be a collaboration with some school districts to also incorporate educational gathering centers, community gardens, potentially dog parks to kind of deal with the green waste, and then also add some workout stations for the public. Here's a few exhibits that we do have. Exhibit A, which is some of the improvements along one trail in front of a school. You can have workout stations, community gardens that coordinates with the schools, some green bike lanes to reconnect the trail through this quarter-mile radius back onto the trail. Exhibit B is kind of indicating, you know, some green space areas, shades, improving intersections with bulb outs, rectangular flashing beacons, and designate a couple areas for dog parks. So we're really trying to utilize the space that's currently out there. Currently out there right now, the typical cross section is you have a paved path. There's some improvements that need to be made, whether it's drainage or repairing some of the patch pavements, also the running paths, and to really make some improvements out here for the dead space zones that are currently out there for the trail. So the main objective for all of this is to really tie the communities together and to utilize this path. As of right now, this trail alone, if you average all the PDAs, EPCs, it's a little bit over 70%. So per our Pittsburgh Move Active Transportation Plan, we had a lot of outreach. There had been over more than 50 outreaches throughout the last 3.5 years. And this comes up as one of our main priority projects within the city. So the idea is to kind of make this a regional project. Let's improve 16.3 miles of this trail, reconnect these communities within 3 areas to utilize the space to reach their key destinations, healthy lifestyles, pet and bikes, and I'm looking forward to implementing this project. If there's any questions, please feel free to ask.
All right, thank you, Nat. And I just want to clarify with Colin, are we taking questions after each presentation? I know we're short on time, so just want to make sure, consider time.
Sure. If I recall last time, I think CBPAC members had suggested, you know, doing it after each individual project because that would be preferred. So if that's still the case, then you all can do it that way for sure.
All right, thank you, Colin. Any committee members have any comments on this project? All right, seeing no hands up, any members of the public have any comments on this project? Okay, I don't see any hands up, so thank you, Nat, for that presentation. All right, we'll move on to the second project on the list here. It's from the City of Concord. It's the Galendo Street Multimodal Corridor Project. I think it's Saravana who's going to make the presentation. So Saravana, go ahead.
Good morning, committee members. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for having us present these two projects. So we have Galendo Street's multimodal corridor project and Willow Pass. So I have one slide deck for both projects together, but I will go in sequence. I have one or two slides just to talk about how these projects together enhance the connectivity in the downtown, or how we have developed or identified the improvements and what are the commonalities in these projects. And then I have a separate slide deck for individual projects in terms of the type of improvements we are doing and how specifically they address the complete street checklist requirements. My name is Saravana Sudantira. I am a transportation program manager with the City of Concord. So, these two projects are based on the feasibility study funded by Caltrans Sustainable Planning Grant. And the feasibility study was completed in 2020, and we started looking out for funding opportunities to start implementing. Moving the projects identified or improvements identified to implementation. And Willow Pass project is in a little bit ahead of and Galendo is following suit. And these are heavily based on robust community outreach. And we had several stakeholder focus group interviews, variety of outreach we have done, as you can see in the slide. And the issues are very similar. They don't have bike routes and very auto-centric infrastructure, and the safety is, is a big issue, generally perceived widely from all participants, and then lack of connectivity and transit accessibility is also an issue with more improvements needed for the bus stops and getting to the Bart station here. So now looking at so basically these two projects together form part of a larger network of bike and ped improvements the city is looking to do, especially in the downtown area, connecting to many schools around the downtown area and to the businesses within downtown, and also connecting better to the Bart station. So these two projects are kind of pieces of the puzzle, but eventually the city is looking to tie and make improvements to the entire network. So we will have better safe bike and pedestrian network to access all the businesses and schools and to the transit centers. So now talking about the Galendo Street Multimodal Corridor Project, this is between Salvio Street and Clayton Road, and we are also looking at Clayton Road section where we have the opportunity to improve for bicyclists. So the project cost total project we are looking at is 4.2 million with 20% matching funds coming from the city. And in terms of the improvement, specific improvement, as you can see between Galendo, I know this was a question was raised earlier in the meeting, between Salvio and Willow Pass, we are looking to do a class 2 buffered bike lane, and then which combined with a raised landscape median. And between Willow Pass and Clayton, we are looking to do 6-foot landscaped on both sides, and that's separating a class 1 10-foot shared bike and ped path. So these are again, on the preliminary engineering. And so there is an opportunity to more look into the details in terms of the right-of-way availability, so we can include the best possible improvement for bicyclist and pedestrian as we get to construction. So there are more opportunities, but given the right-of-way, at this point in time, the planning concept has identified 6 feet or class 1 bike path, multi-use path between Willow Pass and Clayton, and between Salvio and Willow Pass, class 2 buffered bike lane. And as for the section on Clayton between Galendo and Grant Street, it is looking to convert the class 2 bike lane with the delineators and as possible buffers with the class 4 bike lane into class 4 bike lanes. So this is the improvement proposed for this Galendo multimodal corridor project. And in terms of relation to, getting into specific questions on the complete street checklist, in terms of relation to local policies and priorities, you can see the number of plans that has looked into and identified and included this particular improvement. General plan to downtown Concord, a specific plan and city bike ped and safe route to transit plan, and monument community-based transportation plan. And the LRSP that is going tomorrow for adoption by the City Council also includes this one. And as I mentioned before, this is connecting to existing and future bike lanes in downtown Concord, which facilitates better connectivity to better and safe connectivity to all the businesses and schools and to Bart. And in terms of the regional active transportation network and safety analysis question, this is part of the, as you can see on the slide, this is part of the regional ACT network. And safety analysis, the data shows high level of collisions, as you can see in the highlight areas. So this corridor is located in high collision area. So this is part of, the map scale doesn't show the length or the linear portion of the project, but it is behind the dot here, as my cursor shows. So it's part of the 2018 countywide bike ped plan and it's proposed low stress countywide bikeway network. And transit coordination, in terms of responding to that, all of the buses that travel through, it connects to the county connection, goes through the corridor, connects to Bart station. And it is part of the equity priority community. It is part of the PDA, as you can see here. So ultimately, the type of improvements we are proposing is, as I explained, the highlight is the 10 feet shared use bike and ped path on both sides of the street, and also with the buffered class 2 bike lane as the right of way dictates is what is proposed. And converting the class 2 bike lane into class 4 bike lane to the level best in terms of the improvement, the type of improvement we are going to be doing. And this will all be finalized at the design stage in collaboration with the community and other key stakeholders. So with that, I'm moving on to Willow Pass. Do we want, I will stop here if the committee has questions.
Thank you, Sarvana. Anybody have any questions on the first project here, the Galendo Street project? Any committee member questions, comments? All right, seeing none. Any public comment on this project? Okay. Don't see any as well. So, Sarvana, please continue with the Willow Pass Road Bikeway Connection Project.
Thank you, Chair. So the Willow Pass Road Bikeway Connection Project is about, the cost is about 3.8 million, again to about 11.47% the required match coming from the city. And this is, as I mentioned, this is in a little bit advanced stage, and we are looking to, it's in design phase and anticipated to construct, go to construction in 2026, are moving into design. And in terms of the project improvements, we are looking, we are proposing class 4 two-way cycle track on Willow Pass between Landana and Parkside Drives. This is a big highlight. And because of the right of way dictates, we are proposing class 2 bike lane on Parkside Drive. This will again, connect to continue to Willow Pass and connect to the bike lanes on Salvio Street. So as I mentioned before, both projects are trying to connect acting as pieces of the puzzle and trying to connect to the entire bike ped network that city has adopted and looking to build it out. And in terms of local policies and priorities and relations to that, as the complete street checklist requires, this slide lists the local plans it has adopted and where this project is identified. And again, the LRSP that goes for adoption tomorrow includes this project. And it is part of the regional active transportation network. And the other slide are the information presented on the right-hand side shows the level of collisions or the intensity of collision. There is also a fatality included occurred here in this in the project corridor area. And this is part of the Countywide 2018 Countywide Bike Ped Plan, and it's part of the low stress Countywide Bikeway network. On transit coordination, there are many stops, as you can see on this corridor. This is a regional route. I don't need to tell folks here, and this leads to connecting to the Bart station. It is connecting to EPC. It's very much part of the PDA. Again, as you mentioned, this is it includes, in terms of the improvement, it includes two-way cycle track from Parkside to Landana, and it is again, there is a road diet proposed by removal of one travel lane from Farm Bureau to Landana, and it includes class 2 buffered bike lane as much as possible on the one section where the right of way constraint exists. So with that, I'll be open. I'll take questions.
All right. Thank you, Sarvana. Questions from the committee. I see Committee Member Olson's hand up.
Yeah, hi. Bruce Olson, regular bicyclist. Those of us who regularly ride our bicycles are hoping that the class 4 bike lane that is planned to end at Landana will be continued up to the Delta de Anza Trail as part of the development of the former Naval Weapons Station. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Committee Member Olson. Vice Chair Dugan.
Hi, Vice Chair Dugan here. Sarvana, does this project also include, if I recall, a treatment where the Contra Costa Canal Trail meets Willow Pass? I'm thinking it was a hawk signal or some kind of crossing that was proposed, or am I thinking of a different project?
I have to gather information on that, Vice Chair. I can get back to you, but it is looking at more comprehensive improvement, and there are many RRFBs and pedestrian crossing improvements are included as part of this project. Okay, so that is just a general package I'm mentioning.
Okay, great. Well, I appreciate any follow-up.
Sure. Can you state that again one more time so that I can note down and.
Sure. I believe this project intersects the Willow Pass Road at the Contra Costa Canal Trail.
Yeah.
And I've received some plans recently. I was just confirming if that was the case, but I appreciate anything you can let me know.
Sure.
All right, any other committee member comments?
Could I follow on to Committee Member Dugan's concern with the crossing of the canal trail of Willow Pass as part of this project? Yes, we need that crossing to be safe. And I don't think the city of Concord is particularly concerned with building that crossing. So that's Mr. Dugan and now Bruce Olson expressing concern. Maybe the city of Concord could be concerned with that crossing also. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Committee Member Olson, for the comment. Any other comments from committee members before I move to the public? All right, seeing no hands up for committee members, I'll move on to the public, and I see Eric Owens' hand up. Eric?
Hello, Eric Owens with Bike Concord. For the Galendo project that is proposed, I believe that is the area there was a fatality a few months back. There wasn't a lot of details on there. Is the proposal to have a paint-only bike lane on Galendo? If that was the proposal, I would be concerned with that. I do not think that is an especially busy area, and I do not think anyone would feel safe riding their bike in a paint-only bike lane on Galendo Street.
All right, thank you for that comment. Eric, I know Sarvana, if you had any comment on that, or
it is not paint only, but again, you know, I am presenting it for the project managers here, and it says between Salvio and Willow. I'm just reading from the checklist that we have submitted. So there was also a question like whether we will deviate anything. Whatever we have submitted to the city is actually the more on the conservative side. So the city looks to do much more robust, and as the right of way availability, you know, becomes available during the design stage, we will be you know, expanding the improvement types as possible. So that's just a background. But here, what we have here, I mean, submitted is Class 2 bike lane between Salvio and Willow Pass Road, includes raised landscape median, Class 2 bike lanes with buffered striping and green bicycle marking. And I don't know whether it answers Eric's question. And between Willow Pass and Clayton Road includes of course, that's the separate Class 1 shared path.
all right, Committee Member Olson.
Yeah, if I could add to Mr. Owens' comment, the 16-year-old who was killed was earlier this year, was operating his bicycle legally in a painted bicycle lane. A car ran the red light, hit another car, and another car hit the 16-year-old and crushed him against a lamp post or a traffic signal post. So it wasn't the kid's fault. It wasn't the person who was driving the car who actually killed the kid fault of the crash, but it was completely unfortunate that this happened.
Okay. Any other final comments on this item before we move on to the next project? Okay, seeing no hands up, we'll move on to, thank you, Sarvana. We'll move on to.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we'll move on to project number 4, which is the from Contra Costa County. It's the Pacific Avenue, Pacifica Avenue Safe Routes to School project. And I will turn it over to, I think, is it Jeff Valeros? And actually, Jeff, if you also want to take on number 5 as well, the San Pablo Avenue Complete Streets Bay Trail Gap Closure
Yeah.
project as well.
Excellent. Yeah, that was the game plan, but I just wanted to ask a quick question, Chair Sarmiento. Did you want me to present on San Pablo Avenue, even though it was not given, moving on to the next phase for OBAG 3?
Actually, that's a good point. Actually, and I'll turn that over to Colin. Like, Colin, is there a need?
It's not a problem.
Yeah, the intent is to address both projects.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks for clarifying, Colin. And yeah, Jeff, go ahead.
Excellent. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeff Valero, Senior Civil Engineer over at Contra Costa County Public Works in Transportation Engineering. I'm going to give a very quick presentation on our projects on the list, and those two are the Pacifica Avenue Safe Routes to School and the San Pablo Avenue Complete Street / Bay Trail Gap Closure. For those who are also on the review panel for the OBAG 3, you'll see a very similar presentation here. Just go over the outline, purpose and need of each project, as well as the project description. So for the first one, Pacifica Avenue Safe Routes to School. This project, this plan proposes improvements over a 1 mile segment of Pacifica Avenue in unincorporated Bay Point between Port Chicago Highway here, all the way over to Driftwood Drive to the west. This project is located within the Transplant RTPC. And as shown on this map here, this project is directly within an equity priority community, as shown kind of in the red underneath, and directly benefits a priority production area to the east and Plan Bay Area 2050's growth geographies. Purpose and needs. So the existing conditions of this road offer many challenges for students walking, biking, and rolling to school, such as narrow sidewalks, pedestrian infrastructure gap, vehicles parking in the bike lane, as you can kind of see in this photo here, high vehicle speeds, pedestrian crossings in such an environment, and areas lacking separation between non-motorized and motorized users of the Segway. And for this particular road, it's important because it's the main thoroughfare of this particular community in Bay Point. Should also note that there is a substantial 400-foot sidewalk gap and narrow sidewalk east of Riverview Middle School, where students walk within feet of passing vehicles. And you can kind of see that in the photo here. And although Pacifica Avenue has Class 2 bike facilities on both sides of the road, however, the south side of the street consists of a 9-foot wide bike lane, which invites many unwanted vehicles parking in the bike lane, as they're next to the 3 schools in the area. So this project proposes the replacement of 2,400 feet of existing Class 2 facilities on the south side of the road with a protected 2-way cycle track, as well as closing a 400-foot pedestrian network gap closure through a new 6-foot sidewalk, and then construction of widened sidewalks, curb extensions, as well as raised crosswalks with high visibility striping to help with the students crossing to access their schools, as well as help slow vehicular traffic. So you can kind of see the cross section here. What we have are the 9-foot bike lane on the south side, the 2 12-foot travel lanes, the bike lane, and parking. And so what we have here would be a 10-foot 2-way cycle track with some kind of barrier protection, 11-foot travel lanes, while being able to keep the bike lane and parking lane. Do you want to pause here, Robert, or shall I go straight into the next one?
Yeah, well, actually, we'll pause real quick and see if anyone has any questions on the Pacifica Avenue Safe Routes to School project. Any committee member questions, comments? All right, I don't see any hands up. Any public comment on this item, on this project? Oh, I do see committee member Weeks, your hand up.
Yeah, hi, sorry, just really quick. I'm too slow on the draw.
No worries.
I heard I'm pretty interested in barriers and stuff and removing them or putting them in where needed. And there was a brief mention of some kind of barrier proposed at the cycle track side. Has there been like any exploration of what kind of barriers these would be for here? It looks like a K-rail in that drawing, but I know that that's the limit. That's probably just what the program gives you to drop there. Has there been
very limited on street mix. We're entertaining maybe having the cycle track be raised and flush with the sidewalk. And then the other option is, because the county doesn't really install, we don't have a 2-way cycle track yet in the county. So we're entertaining, there's these tough curb delineators, maybe something a little more robust since students are in the area. We just haven't fully identified that yet.
All right, cool. Just curious. I'm looking into this stuff myself, so I'm always interested in state-of-the-art work. So keep us informed as to what you decide. It'd be great.
Will do.
All right. Any questions from members of the public on this item, on this project? All right. Seeing no hands up, Jeff, yeah, if you could continue with the San Pablo Avenue Complete Streets project.
Sounds good. And so the San Pablo Avenue Complete Street Bicho Gap Closure, that was so close. Give a little update on this project. I've also presented this to the CB Pack, I think for ATP Cycle 5 and maybe 6 if we did that. So same project that we have here. This project closes a 3.2 mile segment of the San Pablo, this project is along a 3.2 mile segment of the San Pablo Avenue corridor between the unincorporated communities of Rodeo and Crockett, from Pacific Avenue here to the west, all the way to Pomona Street here in the east. This project is located in the WICTAC RTPC. In regards to equity, the town of Rodeo is classified as an equity priority community as defined by MTC. As you can see in the photos here on the right, this 4-lane road has no bicycle or pedestrian infrastructure. However, through multiple site visits, we have definitely seen bicyclists utilize this road as well as even pedestrians walk the shoulders. So we know that there's already a connection or a use there. So San Pablo Avenue is the main regional route that connects these two towns of Rodeo and Crockett, and these towns share the same school district as well as many of the community facilities and services. This project proposes to close a gap along the San Francisco Bay Trail, which is a planned 500-mile regional trail that encircles the entire Bay Area. It's a little tiny here, unfortunately. My apologies for that. But our project as part of the Bay Trail is this tiny one right here. Hover my mouse over. In 2016, a feasibility study was completed that included extensive community outreach, which helped shape the proposed alternative, as I'll talk about next. And then just for note, the speed data shows that the 85th percentile out here is in the range of 55 to 60 miles per hour for a 45 miles per hour road, and that there was a bicycle fatality that occurred in 2018. And I think you can see in this photo here that there is a bicyclist here from Google Street View. So this project is a 4-3 road diet for the 3.2 mile segment to install a Class 1 shared use path along the northern segment. This one we're proposing a concrete barrier, especially just given the speeds out there. This project also includes a 1,000-foot sidewalk gap closure in the Rodeo area, as well as bus stop improvements and a pedestrian hybrid beacon to help with local pedestrian circulation. And with that, I'll leave it open for any Q&A.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Any committee member comments on this project? Vice Chair Dugan?
Sean Dugan, East Bay Regional Parks. I just wanted to say that the Park District strongly supports this project. This 3-mile extension would allow an over 30, I think almost 40-mile continuous Bay Trail segment. With the work that the Park District is doing in Richmond to close one last like 0.75 mile gap there, from Crockett and the county above, Solano there, and all the way down, I'm sorry, is it Solano or Susan? Anyway, a long stretch of Bay Trail all the way to Oakland and Treasure Island. This really, I really hope the folks reviewing ATP applications come to their senses on this. So this is an extremely important project. So thank you.
Just wanted to follow up comment. This project, I think, lost by 1 point in ATP Cycle 5. And so I asked the CTC on any input to improve. So, I mean, my fingers are just crossed. I think we're really close.
All right, next, committee member Pinkham.
Yes, I applaud this project also. I've ridden that stretch of road and it's pretty hairy. Happy to see this thing, project suggested. Is there also going to be any way to slow down that traffic? Of course, I noted the speeds that you recorded. Still, when you get traffic going by you at 65 miles an hour, I think people think they're in the country somewhere and they can go ahead with it. Anything you plan to slow them down?
The best we have is that there are some segments where we're going to narrow the travel lanes down to 11, and I think that has demonstrated some speed reduction, but that's the best that I can give for an answer.
Yeah, maybe a little enforcement might help.
Committee member Weeks.
Hey, I was just writing there this weekend. Great project, totally needed. But I just keep thinking about how much dumping there was out there, and just cleaning that protected area with the K-rail will be super important. So, I mean, maybe there's a way you could bundle in some kind of cutting edge, bike lane cleaning truck or something, throw that in there, like a hydrogen bike lane cleaner or something, just to give it that extra, pizzazz. But that's going to be super important out there for sure. Seen some amazing piles of garbage dumped out there, and it just, if there is a barrier there, I think people will be tempted to just throw it over the top. And then you got to make sure you can fit a street cleaner back there to take care of it. So love the project, and be happy to be a bike model out there if you ever need it. I'm always out there all the time. I'll take selfies or pictures of my friends out there if you need more shots. Thanks.
Thanks for that comment. We'll work with our maintenance division as to the best way to maintain it, because that is something that we're aware of, to make sure there's not any debris to ruin that experience for cyclists. If I may just make a side comment, we do have a mobile citizen app on our county's website, Public Works, where you can report any illegal dumping and take photos, and that'll help get our maintenance folks out there to clean that up as quickly as they can, or put it in the queue.
Okay, downloading it now. Thank you.
All right, any other committee member comments on this project? Any public comment on this project? All right, so thank you, Jeff, for presenting those two county projects. So move on to project number 7, which is from the city of Richmond, McBride Avenue Safe Routes to Parks. So I think I'll turn it over. I thought I saw Patrick feeling here. All right, Patrick.
I believe this is actually for review of number 6 from City of Richmond.
Oh, 6. Sorry.
No
Yeah, my apologies with the numbering. So, but yeah, Patrick, go ahead.
Sorry, which one are we doing first?
Number 6.
Oh, 6. Oh, my apologies. Yeah, number 6. It's the Bayview to Bart project. My apologies.
Okay, can you see my screen, and can you hear my voice? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you very much for letting Richmond present both of our projects. We're really excited about this. The first one we're calling Bayview to Bart. Project envisions a safe and comfortable walking and biking route connecting the Del Norte Bart station to the Bay Trail. It capitalizes on existing multi-use paths, ties into El Cerrito's transit-oriented development complete streets project, improves conditions around parks and schools, and implements elements of the South Richmond Transportation Connectivity Plan. There's kind of a lot going on this map, trying to show everything that we want to do. Bike lanes on Potrero Avenue, bike boulevard treatments, the orange dashes on some of these smaller connector streets. L's Lane is an existing multi-use path that is in need of upgrades and repairs. And then there's another small path along the east side of Steege Elementary. A short segment of buffered or protected bike lanes on Bayview, and then protected bike lanes on the Bayview overpass. One of the reasons we've selected this project is that we've been working with MTC on a quick build design for those bike lanes on Bayview Avenue. This map shows some of our background information. The pink lines are all of our proposed bike routes. The dashed blue lines show bus service, AC Transit. The line 71 comes through this area. The white highlighting is our project area. Yellow dashes equity priority communities. The entire project's in an equity priority community. And we're also connecting 2 of our PDAs, the South Richmond PDA on the left, and the San Pablo Avenue corridor PDA in El Cerrito on the north end of the project corridor. Here are some quick clips of the design that we were working on with the consultant hired by MTC. Here's a view of the Bayview and Carlson intersection, kind of proposing like a quick build protected intersection. This is a challenging location with a lot of vehicle traffic. There's no sidewalk on the north side of Bayview overpass. So that also means there's no ped push buttons, kind of creates some interesting things for implementing the bike lanes. Another reason we selected this project is that it, as I mentioned, implements the South Richmond Transportation Connectivity Plan. You can see this blow up here pretty much outlines the corridor that we are focusing on using Potrero Avenue and East Shore to connect up to Del Norte. There's a lot of details in our plan that we are trying to implement. This project is also supported by the Richmond Bay Specific Plan. Again, focusing on redeveloping the empty space in the south shoreline in between the Marina neighborhood and Interstate 580. There, you may remember there was the whole proposal to do a UC Berkeley campus extension that's on hold. There's a Campus Bay development proposal for the area as well. Here's some more highlighting. One of the biggest problems we have in Richmond is the freeways acting as barriers to connectivity. So that's a real goal of this project, of getting people across 580, getting people from these equity priority communities to safely enjoy the Bay Trail and the waterfront and all the other connections that you can get to from the Bay Trail in Richmond. It's not just for leisure. Lots of people use it to commute to Berkeley and Oakland. This project also is supported by the Richmond Area Community-Based Transportation Plan that was finished just a couple years ago. This inset map here highlights some of the same corridor using those existing bike ped paths that go along the east side of Booker T. Anderson Park. It's a great way of creating a bike ped corridor that is, quiet and not subsumed by vehicle traffic, because you're using these sections that aren't available to vehicles. Parts of this project are highlighted as high need and high potential recommendations in that plan. Lastly, a few pictures. This is my trusted steed, my Jameis bike at the bike path that actually I would call this a sidewalk, a walking path that goes along the side of Steege Elementary School. We would like to widen that so it's something that is safe for people to bike on as well as walk. We did come through in the last few years and install nice LED lights, pedestrian scale lighting. This is the L's path that's just south of that. If you were to turn around right here, you'd be facing right at Steege Elementary School, and that's Booker T. Anderson Park. This end has a nice curb ramp. Here's an example of some of the many pretty significant repairs and upgrades that need to go along on this bike ped path. And then on the south side, there's no curb ramp at all. So a lot of simple but important improvements we'd like to make. Here we are at the overpass where there are significant sidewalk improvements that need to be done. You can also see there is a pretty wide shoulder that should be easy to convert into a buffered bike lane. We'll make the vehicle lanes a little bit more narrow. And then here's the entrance to the 51st Street connector path to the Bay Trail. There's even one of our Richmond Common Ground etiquette signs up there, the green sign. Got a lot of support from the community, from Caltrans, Park District, John Joya, City of El Cerrito, Rich City Rides, our own BPAC, our Trails for Richmond Action Committee, Groundwork Richmond, who we will partner with for tree planting. I want to mention we included trees and some stormwater treatments on this project, and Bike East Bay and AC Transit. So those are all my slides for this project.
All right, thank you, Patrick. Any committee member comments on this for this project? All right, committee member Pinkham. And you're muted.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry. Thanks, Patrick. It was a good presentation of this area. I ride this a fair amount, and the section just before you get to the elevated portion of Bayview is a very dangerous corner because there's a freeway exit there. So it's always, and a couple of, actually several lanes at that point. So this is really needed. The wide shoulder, I agree on Bayview, should be easy to change. There's often a lot of glass that we have to deal with up there too. But in any event, this is a wonderful connection of the Bay Trail with other parts of Richmond. I think it's going to be a great project.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, any other questions or comments for Patrick, or any committee member comments, questions? All right, any public comment for Patrick? All right, I don't see any hands up. So Patrick, yeah, you can move on. We can move on to your next Richmond project, the McBride Avenue Safe Routes to Parks project.
Yeah, thank you. This is a project that our Bike Pit Advisory Committee helped develop. Several of our members are very interested. One of our members is actually on our Parks and Recreation Commission and is really into this idea of connecting people without a car to the wonderful parks we have in Richmond. I kind of want to mention on both of our projects, they're something that's going to be great for the communities that live in this area, but they're also have some regional significance. This project would allow you to get from San Pablo Avenue to one of the main entrances to Wildcat Canyon Regional Park. Similarly, on the last project I talked about, connecting people from Bart to the Bay Trail. San Pablo Avenue is a busy transit and commercial corridor. The Line 72 comes along this area. Another great thing about this project is we have an existing bike route that's been recently completed on 37th Street. So if this were built, this route would connect you to bike routes that would get you to a much larger area throughout Richmond. Most of this would be a kind of classic 4 to 3 road diet with one lane in each direction and a center turn lane and buffered bike lanes. Lots of curb ramps need to be built. All the yellow and red dots are showing non-existent or non-compliant curb ramps. There's also a couple funky intersections that we would like to streamline so that the pedestrian experience is nicer. Here's that complicated map showing context. The pink lines are proposed bike routes. So you can see this is a proposed bike route in our bike plan. This purple and orange line is what I was talking about, the existing bike routes connecting to our Barrett Avenue route, connecting you to City Hall. Yellow dashing our equity priority communities. So the whole area to the west of I-80 is an equity priority community. The pink and blue are the PDAs and transit-rich areas. Another reason we selected this project is that we had a failed slurry seal project several years ago that included several of our proposed bike routes. So we have what I would call a 65% design completed already. Here, this is with the buffered bike lanes. And then a few photos. This is the funky intersection at kind of the west start of this project where there's an offset intersection. The idea would be to change that right lane to a right lane only lane and fit in a through bike lane there, which would be, of course, great for bicyclists, but it's also going to smooth out this strange intersection where when you're in that right lane, it's almost like you're going to drive into the gas station. So just having one lane is going to make that safer. On the bottom is a clip of the overpass over Interstate 80. There's no parking, which allows a lot of room for us to put in a protected bikeway and then also make sure that we're keeping the appropriate numbers of vehicle lanes to make Caltrans happy. There's an off ramp just behind here. And then if a lot of the traffic is turning left here onto Amador Street, which then leads you to San Pablo Dam Road, which is another way to get onto Interstate 80, but then another heavy traffic area out to the El Sobrante area. This is an example of some of the tough ways to get through here on foot. There's these funky skewed intersections. There's not really a direct, obvious path of travel. There's no curb ramps. The road is overly wide. So we're thinking of even closing off this little end of Glen Avenue and turning it into cul-de-sac so that there would be a nice sidewalk path of travel for people on foot. Also just provide some traffic calming for the neighborhood. Similarly on the east side of the road at Sonoma Street, some kind of bulb out, either concrete or a quick build version to make things nicer for pedestrians and safer. Here's some pictures of those same locations. Another thing we'll be using for our match on this project is that we've had a lot of complaints about the pavement on this segment. It's really torn up, and our in-house paving crew has added this to our paving schedule. So we would like to combine funds for all of these active transportation improvements with doing some of our own paving in-house. And then also this intersection, this is the main entrance to Alvarado Park. If you don't know, Wildcat Regional Park is a really large hillside park, but then there's also Alvarado Park that's kind of a portion of it, and it's much more of a neighborhood picnic kind of park. And the main entrance is right here, just north of this Park Avenue label. There's no continuous sidewalk on the north side of the street. There's no curb ramps. The Arlington Boulevard, which you may know is the main route through the hilly part of this part of Richmond and unincorporated county. And so all that traffic is turning onto McBride and then on again left onto McBride. So this is an intersection where we'd like to explore maybe a mini roundabout or other sort of way to make this more clear for drivers and safer for people on foot or on bike that are trying to get to the park. I've highlighted, look, we have bicyclists already on this route as well. And I highlighted in yellow where that sidewalk gap is that we would like to close so that on either side of the street, people can walk and connect to this wonderful park. Again, mentioned that the Bike Ped Advisory Committee helped scope out this project. Here's 3 of our members who did a walk audit before we applied. One of our members is blind, and so our crew took him along, and you really discover a lot more of the details of challenges for people that don't drive and can't see as well. Again, a lot of great letters of support, and that's my last slide for this project.
All right, thank you, Patrick. Any committee member comments for this project? I don't see any committee member hands up, so we'll move to members of the public. We have Sarah Kalarick.
Hey, Patrick. So speaking as a local resident on this item, a comment on the weird intersection, the skewed intersection at San Pablo Avenue and McBride. I do actually ride through there quite a bit, and that through lane that you comment does seem like it's going straight into the gas station. That's what I've noticed a lot of drivers, in fact, doing, is using that as a straight entrance right into the gas station. So would just bring that up as a comment when you're designing the bicycle lane and making sure that if someone is in the vehicle lane using the through lane but has to cross the bicycle lane path of travel in order to access the gas station, that there could be a conflict. So just think about that with the design. But otherwise, exciting, especially from the city of San Pablo side, to have some connections, better connections to our local parks.
Thanks for that comment, Sarah.
All right, any other final comments on this project? All right, thank you, Patrick, for that presentation on the two projects. So now we'll move to the city of San Pablo. This project is the Broadway Safe Routes to School Infrastructure Project, and I'll turn it over to Sarah Clark.
Great, thank you, Robert. So going to share my screen here. This will look fairly similar to the OBAG 3 panel review PowerPoint. So I'll be speaking about the Broadway Safe Routes to School project. The infrastructure portion is recommended for funding, so it's a partially funded project recommendation for OBAG 3. So looking at this overall budget total, so this is reflecting the full project. We were looking at $700,000 for an intensive Safe Routes to School programming effort, and that is not recommended for funding. So instead, I'll only discuss the almost $1.2 million component, which is design and construction of Safe Routes to School improvements at 18 intersections serving 2 San Pablo schools. So the 2 schools are Bayview and Lake Elementary. These schools were selected because of their proximity to a larger ATP application that the city has submitted to install a 2-way cycle track along Broadway Avenue and El Portal Drive. We have taken these Safe Routes to School components and separated them into a separate kind of OBAG 3 component because we know ATP funding is hard to secure, and we don't want these Safe Routes to School improvements to be dependent on securing the broader OBAG, or excuse me, broader ATP funding. So if we do secure ATP funding for the cycle track project, we will be implementing those improvements at the same time, but then this is also able to function as a standalone Safe Routes to School improvement project. So this is a map of the proposed improvements. In some cases, numerous improvements will take place at the intersections, and there'll be striping and signage improvements taking place all throughout the project area, but this map highlights specific improvements. And you can see from the scale that this is a pretty walkable area and 2 schools that are close by. So there's an opportunity to support significantly more walking to school in these areas. So this project is implementing 17 of the 23 Safe Routes to School recommendations that were identified for Bayview Elementary, and 10 of 15 infrastructure recommendations identified for Lake Elementary in the Safe Routes to School Master Plan that was adopted earlier this year and funded by Measure J TLC funding. So we're excited to be able to take very recent outreach and planning work that took place over the past 2 years and advance that into infrastructure improvements to serve the local schools. Both of these schools have very high free and reduced price lunch usage, and all of San Pablo is part of an MTC identified equity priority community. Just one other thing that I want to highlight is that some of these intersections do fall within MTC's new active transportation network. And we will be also identifying ways to partner with Contra Costa Health Services to provide Safe Routes to School programming that's part of their OBAG 3 recommended item. And we'll try to leverage those and carefully time the efforts of these improvements with the programming that they're doing so that we can get kind of more bang for our buck and better engagement with school stakeholders. And then just to provide a citywide, or sorry, first a couple photos of the improvement area. So Lake and 14th, these are yield controlled intersections that we'll be looking at converting to stop controlled. Also at these intersections, there's a clear lack of crosswalk, striped crosswalk facilities, especially as we get into the school zones. So there'll be signage and striping improvements included as part of this. This is Rivers and 17th, and we can see actually Bayview Elementary at the end of this block. So this is one of the areas that will be receiving improvements like new ADA curb ramps in areas that are completely lacking curb ramps, and then adding truncated domes and improvements to ramps that are not sufficient. Also, again, new crosswalks with high visibility striping as appropriate for a school zone. And then this is looking at Broadway Avenue and 18th Street, which is roughly in between the two schools. This would be a location where a new crosswalk would be added, high visibility crosswalk with a curb extension and then additional crosswalk improvements. And then taking a bigger picture citywide look, this is the general location of the improvements. And then for context, for those who know about the other OBAG project, we also submitted and are not recommended for funding for the Church Lane improvements. This gives citywide context. So with that, happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you for the presentation, Sarah. Any committee member comments for this project? Please raise your hand. All right, don't see any hands raised. Any public comment? All right, don't see any hands up either. So thank you, Sarah, for making that presentation. All right, next we'll move to project number 9, which is City of Pinole Bay Trail Gap Closure at Tenant Avenue. So who do we have here? Misha from City of Pinole?
Hi.
And Michael as well, I see. So
yeah, so thank you for joining us this afternoon. I'm Mike Vidra with CSW Stuberstroh, working with the City of Pinole on the Tenant Avenue and Pinole Valley Road, or the Tenant Avenue Bay Trail Gap Closure project. So here's a little bit of the smaller scale project. We've got the blue on the right is the existing end of the SFA trail, which heads to the City of Hercules. And then on the top left is the connection to the rest of the SFA trail. So there's about a 600-foot gap where we are losing some high ability of safety and the width and getting a smooth connection for the pedestrians from one side of the Bay Trail to the next. And so right now they would come off of this existing pedestrian bridge, which is over Pinole Creek, and head adjacent to the road, have a crossing over the road, and then onto another sidewalk. And then the sidewalk has a terminus at the end of Tenant Avenue that crosses over the railroad tracks to the Bay Trail. And then up here to just out of the screen is the wastewater treatment plant. And then the park over here is Bayfront Park, which actually has wonderful views over sunset views over Tenant, over Mount Tam, if you're ever out there. So it's like I said, it's a 600-foot gap, and through that corridor, you'll see here, we were on this picture on the right. This was during our site diagnostic meeting with CPUC and some representatives from UPRR. There are about between 50 and 60 trains per day out there traveling anywhere from 30 to 40 miles per hour. And we did a pedestrian and train survey as well. And there's about 300 walkers and bikers that are crossing the railroad track daily. And since 2010, there's actually been there have been 5 fatalities at this location. And we're doing a partnership on this project with East Bay Regional Parks District. And this will help close the Bay Trail through the City of Pinole. Here is a little bit more of the broader context. So in this blue circle, these pink lines indicates this gap closure that's required. And the dashed red line is the SFA trail. And you can see that it extends here up to the City of Hercules, and then to the north, and then to the west and southern portion heads the rest of the way through Pinole into San Pablo. And our plan this is where it has come from. We've had multiple discussions with CPUC, and then working with the standards of East Bay Regional Parks on the SFA trail standards, the city of Pinole with their standards, the manual for uniform traffic control devices, and working on getting that class 1 trail to connect the Bay Trail from the north to the south. And it would extend a 10-foot wide sidewalk around the end cul-de-sac of Railroad Avenue, and then across the railroad tracks, and then cross Tenant Avenue once more to get to the extension of the SF Bay Trail. And we've gone through multiple iterations, like I was saying, with CPUC to really fine tune and have all of the standards met to have their approval, almost approval on this project. We're still working with them and hope to have even more discussions with them, but we've gotten to a good point with all of their signals and necessary signage and striping required at a railroad crossing. And so this project the total cost is around almost 1.4 million, and with a city contribution of 345,000. So the delta is around 1.02 million, give or take, at this current time. And we are in the midst, like I mentioned, of the General Order 88B application with CPUC, and ideally we'll have approval by mid-2023, which would then kick us into our final design by the end of 2023. And then we would send it out to bid in the beginning of 2024, and then construction to begin in the summer and then finish up in the fall. And with that, I would open discussion, and if there's any questions that I can provide. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that presentation, Michael. Committee member comments, Committee member Pinkham.
Yes, give us an idea of how much car traffic goes through, or vehicle traffic on that street.
I have to look at those numbers, but the vehicle traffic is relatively minor. And one reason, because it's an end, there's nowhere to go. There is a very small park at the end, which I mentioned, and then the wastewater treatment plant as well. So it's typically only the employees of the wastewater treatment plant on a daily basis.
Oh, okay.
But sorry, I don't have the
mainly the
numbers.
Yeah, okay.
Committee member Weeks.
Hey, again, I was just there this weekend. I love going through there. It's an amazing amenity that needs to be put in along this trail. If anybody on this group hasn't gone along the trail, it is just amazing. And even though it sounds terrifying with all these trains going by, it's actually pretty cool. It actually adds a lot of visual interest, and as long as you're in a safe spot, it's great. So I just wanted to ask about all these, there's all these bridges here. I know when you get to the end of it, you're kind of like, I know the first time I came here, I went across the wrong one, ended up on some weird little hillock over there and had to turn around. And then I ended up going down the second one the next time. That isn't where I wanted to be. I wanted to be on the blue line there that you have in the picture. So is there going to be, is that part of it? Like kind of getting rid of some of these extra bridges, or just making it clear that's not the way to go if you're wanting to go to the main trail? Like, is there a signage piece, I guess, is what I'm asking?
Yes. Yeah, there's going to be a wayfinding signage piece that is going to be part of this project. Yeah, as you mentioned, there's this pedestrian bridge up on the top. It just leads to a little area where you can sort of walk around, and there's nowhere else to go. So you got to turn around. And then this railroad bridge, Railroad Avenue bridge was actually Railroad Avenue, which actually extended all the way into Hercules, and which recently has been abandoned. So the improvements at the end of here is going to build a cul-de-sac with the road around it, which is really going to help point you in the direction of, if you're going on the Bay Trail, you really want to go this way, but with signage as well.
All right, cool. And I know a little bit along there, there's where that trail leads, there's these huge hatches in the trail that are getting more and more dangerous over time. But just heads up there that, I mean, when you fix one place, there's gonna be a lot more attention on those other ones up the trail a little bit. But yeah, and I'm just curious too, there's this beautiful house built down there right at the corner there. Has there been any thought of kind of working with them to make something out of that, like some kind of park or a place for people to, something more interpretive? I know it's held privately and all that, but it could really be an amazing amenity to add to that park if there's been any discussions on that.
That is a good point. I have not had any discussions with them. We have not at this point.
hopefully someday someone will talk to the owners and bring that into the fold of the city or something like that. Be really cool. But thanks for working on this. I appreciate the work, and it's really, really needed. It's pretty confusing right there. So congratulations on it.
It is. Yeah, and so when I was out here with my drone, it was actually, there's the bikers, I mean, and the walkers, they kind of cross through this big, huge gravel area, which is, it's nice to have this open space. It feels somewhat safe, but we really want to direct them and be in control of where they're going. So it'll really help.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Chair Dugan.
I think, thanks, Michael and Misha, for this. Obviously, the Park District is a partner and collaborating on this, and really is excited about something happening here. We were unable to do so as a part of the bridge project, but this is a long time coming. I just wanted to point out that, yes, the traffic here is mostly pedestrian and bicycle, and we have a trail counter installed, and the average daily trips in 2021 and 2022 were about 400, which is roughly just about 150,000 trips per year. And so this is very, very well used and very, very much needed. So thanks.
All right, any other committee member comments? Any public comment? All right, seeing none. All right, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Misha.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to item project number 10, which is being presented by the City of Lafayette. It's the School Street Class 1 multi-use facility. And I see, where is Patrick here? Patrick Gollier from the City of Lafayette.
Hi there. I just need to share my screen. So if you could close out of the Bay Trail one.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Patrick Gollier, and I'm the new Transportation Program Manager here at the City of Lafayette. And our application is for the School Street Class 1 Multi-Use Facility Project, which is shown here on the map towards the bottom here in red. Adjacent to two schools, the city's downtown area and the Lafayette Moraga Regional Trail here in green. For those that aren't familiar, the Lafayette Moraga Regional Trail is a 7.5-mile Class 1 multi-use pathway that runs from Pleasant Hill Road over here on the right through downtown Lafayette to St. Mary's College and down to Moraga. It's a huge amenity for Lafayette. And our goals are to provide as many safe connections to this pathway as feasible to help facilitate safe, active transportation throughout our city. So this project, it's a high priority safe routes to school project that would result in the construction of a Class 1 multi-use pathway on School Street here along the north side of Stanley Middle School. So it'd be on School Street and Topper Lane here to the right. To provide a Class 1 low stress Class 1 connection between two existing Class 1 facilities, the Lafayette Moraga Trail and First Street, our First Street pathway right here. The project would also construct a new section of sidewalk along St. Mary's Road to help provide access to both Class 1 facilities on Topper Lane and School Street. It would provide students at both Stanley Middle School and Lafayette Elementary School with a safe and comfortable facility to walk or cycle to school from many of Lafayette's neighborhoods, while also creating a seamless active transportation connection between downtown Lafayette and our BART station, with the numerous neighborhoods and destinations to the south and east of the project site. I did want to point out that there was a fatality in this crosswalk here by the Paradise Court intersection in September of 2021. And that over the summer, the city started construction on a number of quick build projects along School Street, including a temporary bike lane, RRFBs at two crosswalks, and bulb outs at this Paradise Court intersection. So this slide shows the desired cross sections for each of the project components. The proposed bi-directional Class 1 pathway on School Street would be 10 feet wide with a 4-foot landscape strip. On Topper Lane, over here to the right in B, no, letter B, the pathway would be 10 feet wide and also bi-directional. And the sidewalk on St. Mary's Road would be 6 feet in width. And the Class 1 facilities would be constructed at sidewalk level, and associated ADA improvements would be designed and constructed as part of the project as well. So I just have a few existing conditions photos to show you the conditions along the street. So the first photo here today, looking east along School Street, across the street from Stanley Middle School, shows what conditions look like in 2019. So you've got parked cars along the north side of the street. So between those parked cars and parents stopping along the curb during pickup, students were only left with walking along this very narrow sidewalk with utility conflicts and biking in the roadway with all the pickup activity chaos. So recently we legislated the removal of parking along the north side of the street as far as First Street, and installed a number of safety improvements, including this temporary bike lane, which is out there today, construction of 2 bulb outs, as I mentioned, installation of RFBs are coming, and some ADA improvements. So the photo here on the left, this is from school closing last week. It shows the demand for safe walking and cycling activities as school lets out. This first photo is looking west along School Street, and the school, Stanley Middle School, is located on the left side of the street. And the second photo shows the connection to the Lafayette Moraga pathway. This photo is also looking west, but a little bit further west along School Street at the intersection with First Street. And then the last photo here on the right, I just wanted to show what our First Street Class 1 facility looks like. So moving on to the Complete Streets checklist. The first question asks about the project's compliance with relevant plans. And this project has long been envisioned in Lafayette. It's listed as Project 3100 in the county's Bike and Ped Master Plan. It's listed as the School Street Bike Ped Pathway connection to the Lafayette Moraga Trail, and it does call for a Class 1 facility on the north side of School Street. In 2020, the city requested that Safe Trek at UC Berkeley conduct a complete street safety assessment for various locations within the city. And this area was one of 3 focal areas in that study. And the recommendations from this study did include a 2-way cycle track along the north side of School Street, as well as dedicated bike and ped facilities along Topper Lane. And then in support of our council's recent adoption of Vision Zero last year, our council authorized city staff to initiate a series of rapid implementation school safety plans for our schools. So this was a collaborative effort that involved the public and the school community to identify safety issues and countermeasures for Stanley Middle School and Lafayette Elementary School. And this project was identified as a priority longer-term project. This is the Lafayette Regional Active Transportation Network, and the project is located completely within that MTC-defined network. And the project will also be aligned with NACDO's All Ages and Abilities Design Principles, as we are proposing a Class 1 facility constructed at the sidewalk level to minimize the exposure of people on foot and on bikes to vehicles. Regarding safety and comfort, this is some Switter's heat maps in the 5-year period between 2016 and 2021. There were 7 collisions that took place in the immediate project area, including 6 that involved pedestrians and 1 with a cyclist. This shows the project location is within this largest heat map bubble. This just shows a little bit more detail about the collisions, the locations and types of collisions. The fatalities are in red, including the one at the crosswalk that I mentioned, and the injury collisions in blue. Noteworthy is that all the collisions did involve either pedestrians or cyclists. So there's a question on the checklist about the reduction in the level of stress for bicyclists and pedestrians. And so that is the intent of the project, to meet LTS 1, to deliver a physically separated active transportation facility comfortable and accessible for children at these 2 schools, but also for the greater population of Lafayette and Moraga including our elderly, who would be attracted to the network of protected facilities that the project would contribute towards. This shows the public transit route. There are no potential impacts to buses, but I have reached out to County Connection, and they don't anticipate any impacts to their service with this project. The nearest mobility hub question on the checklist is at the Lafayette BART station right here in blue. This is approximately 3/4 of a mile from the project area. And so this project would support that mobility hub regardless of whether or not it's part of this project area, because we are closing a gap in our all ages and abilities active transportation network in downtown Lafayette. We are going to meet professional design standards, HDM Chapter 1000 guidance for Class 1 bikeway facilities, and we would strive to meet NACDO design guidance as appropriate for this street. Thank you for your consideration, and I'd love to take any questions or comments that you might have.
All right, thank you, Patrick. Any committee member comments for this project? All right, see no hands up. Any public comment on this project? All right, don't see any hands up as well. So Patrick, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the 11th and final project, which is from the city of Walnut Creek, a Safe Routes to School Infrastructure Improvements Project. Yes, Smadar Boardman here who'll be presenting on this project. So Smadar.
Thanks. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Actually, no, cannot. It's
okay. Let's try that again. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So Smadar Boardman, I'm the traffic engineer for Walnut Creek, and we'll be going over the Safe Routes to School Infrastructure Improvements Project. So we are looking at 6 locations. Right now, we're looking at this figure, 7.99 million. As discussed previously on the previous agenda item, this would be a partially funded project. So we'll run through all of the locations, but ultimately what we land on, will be determined later. We're looking to expand our network of completed sidewalks of over around 2,700 feet of additional sidewalk network added. We have support from the school districts and East Bay Regional Parks Iron Horse Trail for a specific location. And what we're trying to do is improve safety for the most vulnerable road users and improve that experience for those users by reducing delay and increasing that comfort for pedestrians and cyclists. These locations are all within the mapped pedestrian priority areas or within a quarter mile of a school. And there is also one PDA location. And our commitment is that our projects will be designed and constructed following best practice, utilizing proven countermeasures to eliminate KSI and head to that goal of 0. So the first location is Broadway, Newell, and the Iron Horse Trail. And some of the issues here are that active modes, this is actually where this black dotted line is the Iron Horse Trail. And so currently it runs along the east side of Broadway. And you must cross 2 crosswalks in order to get to the other side. And likewise, if you're going northbound, you would cross whichever 2 crosswalks at this intersection. But this creates excess delay for those active users. This is an at-grade crossing of the Iron Horse Trail. Students from a couple of schools who are older students who do utilize this connection to access the high school, which is just to the south of this photo, do use this intersection to get there. And from a safety perspective, turn speeds are higher. We have longer crossing distances. This is a busy intersection. We see a lot of pedestrian and bicycle traffic using this for recreation, for commuting, and to access schools. And then there are also these key destinations in this location. And so we have a market here on the bottom left of this photo. The regional shopping destination Broadway Plaza is this top left corner. We have a parking area down on this bottom right that actually serves a major employer, which is Kaiser Hospital, which is just to the left or west of this photo. And then there's also some residential uses. So the intent here is to reduce the size of the intersection by installing bulb outs and removing excess lanes. And then with that comes some traffic signal modifications. We'd be adding a scramble phase for pedestrians. That's an exclusive phase for the pedestrians and cyclists to be able to use. That way they can kind of cross wherever they want from every corner. Part of that as well would be installing passive detection. So that means you don't have to push a button. You'd be automatically detected just by arriving to the corner. And then with that comes some updated signal timing. We are looking at removing channelized right turn or slip lane, which is that on that northbound approach. Our local road safety plan preliminary findings found that right turn slip lanes are actually, it's one of our collision profiles that we need to determine countermeasures for. So that's where we're seeing cyclists and pedestrians interacting, not as we would want to see with vehicles. This project, we are requesting 2.21 million, and this would result in increased safety and comfort for pedestrians and cyclists, reduced delay for those active modes, reduce those turn speeds, crossing distances, provide that exclusive phase. Again, provide for those schools that are in the area for those older students who truly would be walking and biking. This is a PDA and PPA, and it's impactful. So this is a regionally significant connection. It is on the active transportation network for MTC as identified as a gap in the network. And the Iron Horse Trail it's a backbone in Contra Costa County. So the next location is a sidewalk gap closure where we'd be closing 1,400 feet of, or providing 1,400 feet of sidewalk where currently there's very poor access provided or no pedestrian access infrastructure provided. And this actually would provide access for residents of Walnut Creek, but also for the county. This section of Walnut Boulevard kind of goes county to city to county to city. But to the bottom right on this photo, this project would actually connect to a Safe Routes to School project that was implemented by the county a few years ago. So we'd be providing that connection that actually gets those students all the way into the school. And then there's also some intersection improvements where there's a crossing. This is the only crossing provided to the west of the school. And that would provide reduced turn speeds, reduced crossing distances for those pedestrians, and then it would also act as traffic calming. We actually have a little bit of curvature, and there's also a hill coming around this curve. And so providing that traffic calming would really be helpful in trying to bring speeds down. And this project is construction only, and we're requesting 1.33 million. These 3 additional locations for the gap closures, we have one at Walnut Creek Intermediate. It's a 120 feet of sidewalk, and then also we'd be enhancing a crosswalk by providing a bulb out. This would also act as traffic calming. And the next location is actually between 2 schools, Foothill Middle School and Walnut Acres. And so this intersection that's shown here in this middle picture is Cedro and Abano, and actually has quite a bit of pedestrian and bicycle volume. A lot of the kids are hanging out at the corner waiting for their friends or making crossings. Lots of students that go between both schools who have siblings. So this would help provide some some enhanced intersection safety and close this little gap of sidewalk. The final location is Parkside, and this location would also close a small gap of sidewalk, but this also provides access to Walnut Creek Bart from the neighborhood, as well as the elementary school. And the final location is on Alvarado, which would provide sidewalk where there is absolutely none along the frontage for one of the elementary schools. and it's 850 feet of sidewalk. And then there would also be some crosswalk enhancements at the intersection on the right side of the screen. So, sorry about that. Let me get to the last slide there. So from a phasing standpoint, talking about the complete streets checklist, we're looking at engineering construction for all of those locations, except for the Walnut Boulevard at Walnut Heights location that I had mentioned previously. All of these locations are supported by policies in the general plan, pedestrian master plan. The Iron Horse Trail corridor plan also calls out for improvements at that at-grade crossing at Newell and Broadway. It's in our CIP. And then actually the Olympic Boulevard corridor trail also calls for improvements at that Newell and Broadway location. Again, that active transportation network, the Broadway Newell intersection falls within that area, along with Parkside and Walnut Boulevard at Walnut Creek Intermediate. From a Vision Zero perspective, we touched on that, but the Broadway Newell intersection does fall on the MTC high injury network, and it's also identified as a hotspot in the local road safety plan for the city, or the preliminary findings. And then from a transit coordination standpoint, a couple of these locations do have bus stops, and any improvements that would be made from a pedestrian infrastructure perspective would just make it more accessible to get to those bus stops, or those bus stops would also see some enhancement with new sidewalks. And with that, I will open it up to questions.
All right, thank you, Smadar. Any committee member comments for Smadar on this project? All right, seeing no hands, we'll move to any public comment. Okay, oh, I see committee member Weeks' hands. Go ahead.
Just really fast. Thank you for presenting this. Super excited to see Broadway and Newell on there. And just curious as far as the what's the time window for that, and also about the pedestrian scramble striping stuff. Do you have any of those already? And I'd love to see and propose something like this someday here, once we get busier with City Center. Just curious if you've done all that research now and figured out what kind of striping you're going to do for that scramble.
Yeah, so we do have a few scramble locations in our downtown already. So it's kind of nice because people who already drive through Walnut Creek will be familiar with that scenario. It's more traditional though, where you just kind of have some stripes that go into the diagonal. I think at least my inspiration is sort of maybe taking that Oakland Chinatown concept and applying it here. We showed in our concept the little Iron Horse Trail horseshoes. That could be fun. I think we're open to getting kind of feedback on that striping. Obviously, anything that we do, there's maintenance that is associated with that, but we can always look into different materials that would be a little more substantive and handle that volume going over it without wearing it down too much. So we're open, and we're also open to being creative about it too.
And when did you say it was going to be done, or then you're going to start working on that?
I think that we have that in our application, what the timeline is, but it would be constructed by, when our funds have to be used up. So I think that's
within that. Okay, within the timeline of the grant.
Yeah, within the timeline. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Good news. Thank you for presenting. It's great.
Vice Chair Dugan.
Hi, I know we've been doing this a long time, so I'll keep it short. I was just going to comment on the striping, because I saw the horseshoes, Smadar, and you may know this already, but the Iron Horse is really a reference to the old, what they used to call trains, and so it's really all railroad, not really. Okay, so you know that, but yeah. So the horse thing is maybe a little off, because I'm not sure how many horses you'll get on there. So.
Yeah, that's fair. We actually pulled that icon from the Iron Horse Trail corridor plan. So that was the tie-in. But again, yeah, totally open to what it would really look like.
All right, any other final comments on this project? All right, thank you, Smadar. All right, we'll move on. All right, we got a couple more items here. So item E is an update on the Countywide Smart Signals project, which will be presented by John Huang from CCTA. John, are you? Turn over to John.
Sorry, guys, I'm still here. The long meeting. So I have a short presentation. I know it's been a long meeting, and if you can sit with me for 5 minutes, I can just kind of go through it real quick. Would that be okay? Okay, thank you. So I know there's been questions, like at the last meeting, there was a question about sharing some information on the work that we've been doing for the Smart Signals project, and we've been working, we meaning the CCTA staff and our consultant team have been working, meeting with your respective staff at your cities and jurisdictions for over the past, I would say like 9 months, starting from late last year through all the way through spring this year, to identify some of the key elements and so forth. And I think some of you on this call may have sat in those meetings. So let me share my screen. See how this works. Okay, so you all see this? Are we good?
It's just black.
It says it's starting, but I don't see it yet.
There's a delay over here somewhere. Sorry about that.
Okay, now I can see it.
All right, so as I mentioned, this is really a safety and mobility project. Of course, we're going to focus on the major arterials and the regional routes of significance as we've identified on the major arterials within the whole county. So again, we want to focus on safety and really expand on the Vision Zero effort that CCTA has been working towards over the past couple of years. This project is not only for automobile traffic, but really addresses pedestrian, transit, bicyclists, and focus with the limited mobility. So it's all modes of travel. We're looking at improving safety and minimizing collisions between the different modes. And of course, with the enhanced equipment, we're going to optimize mobility on these corridors, and also laying the foundation for future technology, such as the autonomous vehicles and so forth. This kind of lays out the steps that are involved once the system is all built out. We're really at the very beginning stages. At step 1 to 3, mainly right now, there's a lot of antiquated equipment out there at the cities. If you're familiar with controllers, a lot of 170 controllers, so we want to upgrade those to 2070s. I know certain cities are really ahead of the game, like I think San Ramon, I think all your equipment is upgraded and you have fiber in place and everything, and then other cities and towns are lagging behind, so we want to bring everybody up to speed. And ultimately, we're going to interconnect all the signals on the regional routes and major corridor, interconnect them within your adjacent cities. So eventually all jurisdictions, including the unincorporated county, will be interconnected. And then that sets the stage to allow different operations, scenarios, and so forth down the road. But right now, we're just looking at equipment, and like I said, we've been working with all the cities. Eventually, right now, we are proposing, I think one of the questions earlier in the OBAC presentation about the other parts of the OBAC grant, yes, OBAC 3 does include a portion of it, does include CCTA sponsoring a smart signals project, which is approximately half of the cost of the 57 million that we're nominating for MTC. These are some of the improvements I mentioned, just the low-hanging fruit of the controllers, but ultimately we're going to build it up. There's all types of equipment applications out there. I mentioned the pedestrian, looking at pedestrian safety, but ultimately I think what makes this work is fiber optics. Fiber expands the bandwidth for this communication and really allows a lot of different equipment, such as video detection. We're looking at video detection for not only vehicles but for bicyclists. I've seen that actually work in the peninsula, and also the fiber optics will improve communication and enhance us, allow us to not only interconnect and coordinate signals, which a lot of folks already does, but do other data analytics. There's a lot of technology out there that allows folks or us to analyze potential collisions and close call collisions and so forth. I'm not going to go through all this, but this is a long list of what we hope to get out of the system. And again, I'll focus on the intersections as we're meeting with all the cities. We've identified the intersections, working with the cities, and looked at some of the criteria, which includes, as I mentioned, I think routes of regional significance. We included PDA just because we were going after the OBAC 3 grant. So if the routes are within the priority development area, we included those, and then also the presence of bike lanes and the frequency or infrequency of pedestrian and bicycle collisions. There's an equity component to all this, not necessarily geographical, but other equities such like economic priority communities, and we look at traffic volumes and other information. So this is a snapshot of, if you look at the whole county, you get 652 traffic signals on the regional routes of significance. This map, our purpose of this map is going to portray where all the signalized intersections are and all the data points are within the whole county. And as you can imagine, when we're meeting with the individual cities and towns, the county, we of course zoom this down from the 30,000 foot level down to the 10,000 foot level. So each, if you're interested, we have that data down at the city level. So out of those 600 something traffic signals, we've identified 327 signals. As the actual number is actually one less, 326. And then you can see where these signals are. I don't know where the legend went on this map, but again, it's on your major corridor. There's really no surprises. It connects PDAs and is located within PDAs. And these are the, when we reached out to the cities, we did ask the city staff to provide us a lot of information on the intersection, on the controllers and the equipment. So this is the type of information that we asked from the cities, and we did receive from all the cities. So really appreciate all the folks that worked on this. So at the end of the day, this is the equipment cost. So this is cost for only the equipment, which totals about $22 million. And again, you can look at your own cities, and you can see, how many intersections there are. And of course, the larger the cities, there's more intersections. But these are the ones that we're focusing on in the breakdown. And the 22 million is only a part of the cost. There's also the other part of the cost, which includes design part, which we did not include. And keep in mind, let me go back to this one more slide. So this equipment cost, the construction cost, as part of the OBAC 3, we're asking that each city would contribute the 11.5% match for the equipment that will be deployed within those respective cities. And the rest of the cost will be funded by other funding for OBAC 3 and Measure J, CCTA's money, and includes design. We're actually at the stage now of doing a concept of operations. And with that, I'll answer any questions. I'm going to stop sharing.
All right. Thank you, John. All right. I see a couple of hands up. I'll start with Vice Chair Dugan, and then Committee Member Olson, and then Committee Member Pinkham. So Vice Chair Dugan, you go first.
Yeah, excuse me. Thanks, John. Just curious, is this the implementation of this sort of one contract that you anticipate bidding out and then starting and finishing, or will this be phased? And how long do you think it would take? Sorry if I missed that.
No, I didn't share that at all because, like I said, we're just at the beginning phase. Right now, we're just applying. We're just trying to get the first funding pot, which happens to be OBAC 3, and I did not mention this, but our estimate to really build out this whole system is about $100 million. And right now we're only pursuing a third of that, roughly. If we are successful in the OBAC 3, that gives us a start. I guess as the money becomes available, we'll phase it somehow. It'll be phased by sub-region or by readiness, depending on the cities. I know there's other ITS related, intelligent transmission system, signals related projects going on in a number of cities. So we'll try to coordinate with those cities, and leverage either this project or the other project. So it could be, I think, design-wise, we can design and get everything ready. I think we're looking at maybe in 2.5 years, and then a construction fund is when the fund becomes available.
All right. Next, was Committee Member Olson's hand was up.
Yes, thank you, Bruce Olson, committee member. Pedestrian advocates with whom I work want to be assured that neither the equipment that you buy nor the computer programs that you that you devise, that you write, will preclude the construction, the painting of crosswalks in all 4 quadrants of every intersection. It is extremely discouraging to walking to have to cross 3 streets in order to get across 1 street.
Yeah, thanks for that comment, Bruce. If I understand you right, yeah, the equipment will complement whatever other improvements we made for the pedestrians. So that we'll work with the cities and the locals, and I guess I'll mention this. We're gonna be forming a stakeholders group. Really gonna get all the cities and the stakeholders together to really work at this project collectively. So I certainly want to hear from the pedestrian folks in the stakeholders groups.
Yeah, thank you. Pedestrians want to be assured that we are not left out. We want crosswalks in all 4 quadrants of every intersection. Eventually, doesn't have to be right now, but we do not want to at some later time be told, oh, we already spent millions of dollars writing the program and we cannot accommodate you, and you must continue to cross 3 streets in order to cross 1 street. Having 4 quadrant intersections with crosswalks will reduce the efficiency for the motorist. Hey, tough.
All right, Committee Member Pinkham.
Yes, will we see bicycle lights at the traffic lights, the little bicycle signals? There's a few around these days, a very good one at the North Berkeley BART station, but I'd love to see a lot more and get the, bicycle priority at those lights.
I think that's
Planning
great.
any of that? Good.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Bill. Yeah, that's exactly the technology that we want to deploy. We want to hear from the staff and the actual bicyclist riders. I mean, all this stuff will be able to deploy because we're upgrading all these other equipment, and again, as I mentioned in my presentation, it would just be more robust and allow more of this type of technology to be an application to be implemented.
That's
So
great.
yeah.
Love to see it.
All right, any other committee member questions, comments? All right, any public comment on this item? All right, seeing none, thank you, John, for that update presentation. Let me see here. The next item F, is an update on the countywide coordination of comprehensive safety action plan and local road safety plan efforts. And this item will be presented by Colin Clark, CCTA.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll keep this brief. The Comprehensive Safety Action Plan countywide effort is for compliance with US DOT Safe Streets and for All grant program to have each of our local agencies eligible to be a lead applicant in year 2 of the grant cycles. And also at the same time, meeting the Highway Safety Improvement Program, HSIP requirements for cycle 11 as it relates to the local road safety plan. And so there's a multi-agency effort being kicked off in the next couple months to address these items, and we've been coordinating with each individual city on making sure that the 11.5% match at the local level is a commitment, and whether or not there's any remaining funds left from Caltrans grant from the LRSP, because headquarters, Caltrans has headquarters is supportive of putting the remaining funds toward a countywide effort. We've been coordinating with them, and so do encourage each of the individual jurisdictions to reach out to me directly so that we can discuss further details regarding getting this kicked off.
All right, thank you, Colin. Any questions or comments from the committee members? I ain't seeing none. Any comments from the public? All right, don't see any hands raised. All right, thank you, Colin. We'll move on to item G, which is other business. Is there any other business members would like to discuss? All right, I don't see any hands up from committee members, so we will move on to item H, which is upcoming subjects for discussion, or any topics that committee members would like to discuss in a future meeting. All right, seeing no one speaking up or hands up either, so all right, we'll move on to the I see.
I was just going to suggest that I think it should be an open forum. Like if any members have things they want to discuss at any point, they should reach out, and maybe to Colin or us, vice chair or chair, just to keep it open so we can just end the meeting, you know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and thank you, Vice Chair Dugan. All right, with that, we'll move to item 5, which is adjournment. And so we'll adjourn to the next meeting, which is tentatively scheduled for September 26th at 11 o'clock. This meeting is adjourned at my clock, 1:52 p.m. So thank you for your patience, Owen, for staying on.
Thank you.
All right.